I never wanted to move across the country. I was perfectly happy living in Bennington, Vermont. I loved the landscape, the people, the weather, everything about it. But as a 16-year-old, I had no say in the move whatsoever. My mother works for the government, and that's all she's ever told or been allowed to tell my father and me. So when she told us her job was moving her, and by association us, to the small village of Blanca, Colorado, there was nothing I could do, no matter how angry and outspoken I was. I could only sit back, say goodbye to my friends and the home that I loved, and watch as everything I owned was piled into a big moving truck and shipped to our new home in the mountains, about 2,000 miles away. After a long and morose trip across the country, my father wasn't that thrilled about moving either. We arrived to find that our house was on the far edge of the town. Being honest, the new house is a pretty decent house. It's a one-story house, ranch style, but it's very spread out. It has 2 living rooms, each with a fireplace, a humongous kitchen, and each of the 3 bedrooms had their own private bathroom. It would be a great place to live if it was located anywhere else but here. The problem isn't moving from a place that has 15,000 people to a village that has less than 500. I don't mind that I went from living at a place 800 feet above sea level to a location that's 7,500 feet in the mountains. I don't even care that it gets colder here than it ever did back home in Vermont. What I truly hate about this place is the wind. Or, more accurately, what decides to visit me with the wind. We'd been here for about 2 months when it first happened. Living on the edge of Blanca, my house is surrounded by forest. My room is located at the front of the house and has a pretty big window that looks out into our front yard. When the sun is out, it provides a great view into the surrounding wilderness. But nighttime is a different story. The light of the front porch doesn't reach that far, so even with the decent light from the moon and stars, I could see maybe a few feet beyond the glass, and everything else is shrouded in complete, inky blackness. With my room's lights on, I'm certain somebody even 100 yards away can gaze into my room and watch me with perfect clarity. I was sitting at my desk doing some homework when the wind began to pick up. Being up in the mountains, there always seemed to be at least a breeze flowing through the air. But that night, the wind was picking up some steam. It must have had a steady airstream of 15 to 20 miles per hour, and when the squalls would pick up, it sounded like a high-pitched screech coming from all around outside. For a while, I didn't let the wind bother me. I'd heard it howling outside before, and by that time I'd gotten used to it. Yet, a growing feeling was welling up inside of me. The feeling that something was watching me, and was very close. I thought it a bit weird since I had never felt anything like that before, and I needed to get an essay written, so I decided to ignore the feeling. No matter how hard I tried to engross myself in the essay, however, I could not shake the sense that something had its eyes on me, and the feeling was filling me with more and more anxiety. When I finally finished writing after about 45 minutes of growing tension, I leaned back in my chair from my laptop and gave a big stretch. It was one of those stretches that you reach as far as your limbs could go, and you close your eyes as you do. In the middle of my stretch, a huge flurry of wind battered the house, and I opened my eyes in surprise as the loud wail of the windstorm sounded from everywhere outside. For how creepy it sounded, it was what my eyes met at my window that caused me to go pale and my heart to leap up into my throat. There was a face at my window, pressing itself tightly against the glass. It was near the top of my window, which was at least 7 feet off the ground. Yet I saw no body beneath it, and the face was sideways against the glass. The face was gray as a corpse, long and gaunt, with its mouth open wide and a silent scream larger than I thought possible for a human. There was no teeth or tongue within the mouth, only a black abyss that matched with the darkness surrounding the face. No hair was visible anywhere, even for eyebrows, and 2 gleaming green pinpricks of light occupied its 2 vacant-looking eye sockets. Those glowing eyes were staring at me intensely, and as the wind died down, a silence seemed to fill the world, with just me and that face staring back at one another. Then a gust of air came blasting out of nowhere, and I could not tell if a loud wailing came from the wind or from the mouth of that thing. But it was loud and unearthly, and my nerves couldn't take it anymore. I rushed from the room to the kitchen to grab a knife, screaming for my dad to come help me. My mother wasn't home yet, but my father was in the living room working on some pottery. He was by my side in a second, gripping my shoulders and pleading with me to tell him what's wrong. I told him through sobs that I had seen a face watching me from my window, and his expression grew serious. My father is normally pretty wimpy, but I guess his Papa Bear instincts kicked in because he ran to our front closet and grabbed a handgun I didn't even know we had. He loaded a clip into it and told me to lock the door behind him and be ready to call the police. Before I could protest, he grabbed a flashlight and went out our front door, closing it firmly behind him. I ran to the door and locked it like he said, then tried to follow his progress outside as best I could through the windows. I watched with apprehension as I followed my father's flashlight beam around the house, by going from window to window. I was filled with even more dread when my father completed his circling of the house and went off a little distance to the tree line of the woods surrounding our home and started searching there. A grueling 20 minutes went by before my father came back to the front and I unlocked the door for him.
"Well, I checked everywhere I could think of, but I didn't see anyone,"
he confessed to me. I told him more details about the face and he thought about it for a moment.
"I have told you that I think you watch too many scary movies and read too many horror books,"
he said at last.
"Maybe you just thought you saw something?"
I gave him an indignant look.
"Oh, okay, maybe you did see something,"
he backpedaled.
"But it was probably a piece of trash. There's a lot of elk hunting up here. It might have been some leftover trash from a hunter that got picked up and carried away with the wind."
I knew that wasn't the case, but it made the most sense and it was the most comforting to believe, so I tried my best to believe that's what it was. For the next couple days, I was afraid to look out my window, but the face didn't show up again. Another couple days passed, and still there was nothing looking in at me from the blackness of night. After about 2 more weeks of no activity, I began to truly think the face must have just been some random piece of trash, and in my terror, my imagination had given it those horrific features. About a month ago, I was home alone at night, due to my mother's work schedule and my father going out for a drink with some of his new friends he'd made in town. Another windstorm was blustering outside, but at the time I hadn't really noticed, as I was playing on my Xbox online with some friends. One of the good things about my mother's government job is we have solid internet and cell service at home, even in remote regions. I had my headset on to listen and talk with my friends back east, so it took my stomach rumbling and my decision to make myself a snack to get me to take off my headset and realize the wind was rampaging outside. I could hear the leaves shimmer violently on the trees, mixed in with the groaning of the branches being strained. And somewhere in my gut, the feeling I had those weeks ago of being watched returned. I did my best to shake off the feeling. Looking at my window, all I could see was obscurity of night. No hideous face to haunt my dreams looking in at me. Despite no creepy visitor, I decided to make my snack quickly and get back to my gaming as soon as possible. Making my way to the massive kitchen, I made myself a sandwich and got some chips. I eyed the knives in the knife block with some temptation, but thought better of it. There was nothing outside. Why bother grabbing a knife and feeding into my fears? Maybe making it worse. When I came back into my room, the ghastly sight that greeted me was enough to make me drop my plate of food. In the middle of the window, staring at me intently, was the face again. Again, there was no head or body surrounding the thing, and its glowing green eyes and corpse gray skin was just as horrible as I remembered. But there was one thing different about it this time. It was smiling at me. A malicious smile filled with teeth too big and odd-looking to be human. They didn't look anatomically correct within the face's human-looking jaw. After a few moments of me freezing up in absolute terror and the face just staring at me, grinning its fiendish grin, its jaw unhinged, from the infernal maw a pink tongue emerged and began licking the glass. As it licked the window, it began gnashing its teeth, the way a dog might do if it saw a treat behind a pane of glass. The similarity dawned on me quickly, and I realized in fright that this thing was trying to get in. The wind picked up and the face stopped its assault on the glass to scream along with the fury of the air outside, and I could not tell which of the two was louder. I ran from my room and locked myself in the guest bathroom, one of the only rooms in the house that both had a lock and no windows. There, I waited, curled into a ball and shivering on the floor, flinching at the sound of the wind howling every few minutes or so. Every creak of the house made my heart pound harder, as I imagined it was that thing trying to find some crack in the wall or roof to slip in and find my hiding spot. Even when I heard the front door open and my mother frantically call out for me, I didn't move, afraid it was that thing maybe mimicking her, or maybe it had slithered inside the few seconds the door had been open. It took some time, but my mother finally convinced me to unlock the bathroom door and come out. She embraced me as I exited and soothed me, calming me down enough to finally tell her what had happened. She didn't react in the non-believing or condescending way I had expected. And when I told her about the teeth trying to chew through the window, she asked to pause a second. She took out her phone, typed something in, and asked me, "Did the teeth look like this?" She showed me a photo on Google of teeth that looked exactly like the ones I had seen in the mouth. I nodded, and she grimaced. "I don't want to alarm you, but you should know this. As I was coming up on our driveway, I spotted an elk laying down near the garage doors." A disgusted look crossed her face. I got out to take a closer look. The poor thing was dead. It had a couple hundred cuts all across its body, and it had bled to death. The worst thing, though, was it had its tongue cut out, and all its teeth removed. At this, I began to shake again, but my mother hugged me reassuringly. "I think someone is just messing with us. It isn't funny and it's scary, but I don't think you're in any danger. If whomever is doing this kills and butchers an elk like that, but doesn't break in while you're all alone to do the same to you, I think you'll be okay." She gave me a half-hearted smile. "We'll start you on some self-defense classes and firearm training, but I don't think you're in any real danger. Okay?" I nodded, numbly. She didn't understand that what tormented me wasn't some asshole in a mask. The face that peered in my window and glared hungrily at me wasn't human. And I knew that no matter how much karate I did or how many bullets I could shoot, it wouldn't be of any effect. This thing is a monster, or a demon or something. And I doubt very much it can be killed, or even hurt, by bullets or fists. Two weeks after that was when I became sure this face comes with the wind. There was a storm, with heavy rain and high wind. But I was at a friend's house, staying the night, when it hit. I had a great time, and he and I hung out and played games and watched movies without incident. When I got home the next morning, both my parents were dead tired and edgy. When I asked why they were like that, my mom said she didn't get much sleep the night before, and wouldn't say anything more. It was only when I pressed my dad for more info that he let slip that something had been moving around the windows throughout the storm, as though it was looking for someone in the house. It would be tapping the panes of glass with something, then vanishing before either of them got to the room to get a view of whoever it was. I held hope that the face had moved on from haunting me or my house, when a week ago there was another windstorm, and my watchful vigil of my window throughout the night yielded no demonic face peering back at me. For a time, I could smile again, thinking I was free from my ghoulish peeping Tom. That was until I saw a bit of local news yesterday morning in the newspaper my dad was reading at breakfast. It seems that on the night of the squall a week ago, a local hunter went missing. 2 days ago, the search party found him in the woods. His face was frozen in a look of abject terror, his body covered in hundreds of cuts that went straight through all of his clothing. There were spent ammo casings all around his body, and his rifle was by his side, He was unable to hold it since his hands had been viciously torn off. That's why it wasn't at my house that night. It was acquiring better things than teeth to get through my window. This morning, the weather app on my phone said there would be high gusts of wind tonight. As I've been typing this up, the afternoon has turned to twilight, and the wind outside has already started to blow hard in the night air. Both my mother and father are home, but I doubt they can be of any help. And I pray the thing just goes for me and leaves them alone. I took one of the kitchen knives from the block in my room with me, but I don't think that will be of any help either. I'm so scared. And I'm writing this and posting it so someone can know what happened to me. But I don't want to stop writing this either, because writing keeps my eyes on my laptop screen. If I stop, I'll have no excuse to keep my eyes on my computer. And I know they'll inevitably wander to my bedroom window, where, I swear, through the roar of the gale outside, I can hear the faintest of knocking on the glass.